I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi everyone, I'm Marty Levinson and welcome to Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine.
In closing, I want to say, hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine. Thank you very much.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet home Chicago. 2 is 4, 4 4 6. Come on, baby, now get your business fixed. Come on, honey, don't you wanna go back to the lemon light?
Hi there, I'm the real Marty Levinson, and thank you all for listening to the Northtown News Magazine with Sonny Hirsch, our cameraman, and the greatest host around.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. NTNM.org on the web. All the shows are on YouTube. Community Policing Caps24.org. We're in a transitional period after the election, and there's not a lot of real action in the election in November, so we're trying to see what we can come up along different lines and do all sorts of interesting different things. One of the people we've had on before, he's a Lisagor Award-winning journalist. He is a teacher, an educator, a reporter, does all sorts of interesting things, is our Buffalo Grove friend, Stan Zoller. How you doing?
Avi, good seeing you again.
You too. How is the life of Stan Zoller these days?
It's been very, very busy. I've been doing a lot of work with Chicago Headline Club, Freedom of Information. We just had our Lisagor Award winners.
Wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago, but by the time we come out, yeah, they were May 3rd. Honored a lot of outstanding journalists in Chicago. Been busy teaching at Lake Forest College and doing some work in news literacy. So it's been a busy time getting ready for the summer, some teaching, some other work that we'll talk about a little bit later on.
That sounds good. And any special projects? Are you blogging these days, or?
I'm continuing to blog. I haven't been blogging as much as I would like to because I've been very busy. I'm also of the mindset that if you don't have anything to say, don't blog. Don't write about it because it comes out like, really? What do you take up space? So looking at various things going on in the village of Buffalo Grove, things going on around the area, not only locally, but I do a blog for Chicago Now, and looking at various things going on around the country as it relates to journalism and scholastic press rights and things going on there.
Does Chicago Now actually pay?
Chicago Now?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, do you get paid at all, or they just want you there and you are blessed for being present, and we will,
And it's a way for the Tribune to promote itself, It's a Tribune platform. They have a ton of people who blog. They run the gamut from everything from blogging about Chicago baseball, which is an exercise in futility if you're on the north side, to things that I might talk about in the suburbs or just general issues as well. So it's obviously it's an open forum, and they promote it on the Tribune's webpage. So you got a chance to get some good exposure, and it's great fun. It's a different forum because I used my Gagging in the Grove for Buffalo Grove things, which is my own platform, and then for more non-local stuff, then I use Chicago Now. Sometimes I'll commingle the two.
Interesting. Do you have the Chicago Now thing? By the way, speaking of baseball season, I figured the baseball season this day consists of only one day, the entire season. That'll be draft day, when we'll see who the lovely team of Epstein and Hoyer and Ricketts, who, despite the long Cub history of failure, have put together the 3 worst seasons in a row in Cub history. And I remember those forlorn teams before Leo DeRocher.
The mid-1960s. We used to go out there, there'd be like 2,500 people in the ballpark, and all you had to do was smile at Andy Frayne Usher, and if you were sitting up in the grandstand, you got the front row box seat.
Oh, by the way, and I was one of those people, and I was also an Andy Frayne Usher. And
You look familiar. Go on.
yeah, one of my favorite. Yeah, we'd have to usually wait till the 6th inning before we started moving up. But even so, in those days, the grandstand, which was $1.50 if you were 14 and up, and $1 if you were under 14, started at the 21st row of the park, which is now the terrace boxes or whatever it's called, which run up close to $60 a ticket. So basically, I'd be in the 21st row. We'd usually sit by third base, ran into the WGN microphone, yell out for Billy Williams when he first came to bat, so everybody could hear us on TV and the whole shot. And yeah, there weren't too many people. We used to regularly go down into the boxes. Yeah,
Sure. Which at the time were $3 each,
yeah, that's wow.
and the bleachers were 50 cents.
Yeah, we made it down to the first row sometimes.
Sure.
In just about every location. I still remember one time we just picked the second row and we were sitting, the only two people in front of us, and we just were curious if it was them or not, but we didn't have the guts to approach them, were Ernest Borgnine and Forrest Tucker, which was McHale's Navy and F Troop, which were both on the air at the time. And of course, Ernest Borgnine was an Academy Award winner as a lead actor for Marty, a Paddy Chayefsky film, which was really a pretty cool movie. So, no, those were exciting days, and you got to see things real close. And it's one of the reasons, all the games, even though you went to the Bulls games in those days, you got to see everything really close. There was nobody there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Bulls started in Chicago in 1967, 68.
Yeah.
And as I said, no one really knew them. And they also didn't have the 35, 40 teams, whatever the NBA has. So those guys who made it in the NBA, you were seeing good basketball if you were into it. Same is true of hockey.
No, really good basketball. Yeah, the first year they had Guy Rogers, who actually set an NBA records for most assists in a game that year at one point. Don Kogis, who became an all-star when he went to the San Diego in the expansion draft. Erwin Wolfgang Muller. He had a scoring forward. I want to say Boozer, but it wasn't Bob Boozer. Not Carlos Boozer.
No,
They had
obviously.
But anyway, no, it'll be interesting it's a whole different world these days.
Yes, it is. Across everything.
Yeah, no, yeah, you have some interesting allegiances, but I don't know if you want to talk about them on the air or not. So, do you get into the NFL draft at all?
Not at all. I see who the teams pick, and I go, okay, fine. We go from there. It's become such a hype that it's like, okay, can we just have the draft, and the fantasy drafts? And, I just sort of sit there and, okay, let's see who they got. Who's this guy? Where do he play? Fine. And I follow my teams, who they pick, and it goes from there. I'm not obsessed with it.
I do follow it. I do like it. It's sometimes when you're cheering for bad teams, which when you live in Chicago can happen frequently.
Yeah.
It's a day of hope. The NFL draft actually is tomorrow as we film.
Right.
So I would like to make my prediction for who the Bears would take a day in advance. My prediction is, and get this, and see if I'm right, I predict the Bears take a large black man in the draft. How's that for going on? I don't know.
I'm not even going to discuss with you. You're probably right. Unless they take a quarterback now, it could.
Well, they got 7 picks. One of them's got to be a large black man. They might take a large white man too. It's possible.
Yeah, they did last year.
They did, as a matter of fact. Long.
Yeah.
Who actually was in the Pro Bowl. That was very surprising. Now, you get involved in Jewish politics also?
A little bit, not too much. I work closely with the Jewish Defense League, what there is of it remaining. And we'll be out at the Chicago Night Jewish Festival. We'll have a table.
That's Sunday, June 8th in Harm's Woods, is it? Or I forget the name of the forest preserve.
It's out there in Morton Grove.
Right.
So
yeah, Mayor Kahana was my aunt's first cousin. I mean, we weren't. My aunt is not a blood aunt, so we weren't directly related, but we became very friendly. I met him through family stuff. I was working for the Sentinel. I did a story about I spent 3.5 days before the Nazi March, living with these people, doing a story which I never wrote. They'd all be in jail right now. About the activities before the Nazi March.
Yeah, it goes on, and worked closely with Shelley Rubin, Irv's widow, who ran the organization up until.
Irv was part of that group.
Yeah, Irv was. Yeah.
We were staying. Matter of fact, this is way back when. We stayed initially. There was a motel at Peterson and Cicero that was owned by one of Kahana's biggest supporters. He owned about 5 different motels, and he always put up Kahana's people. And it was really interesting to sit there with Irv Rubin, and there was another guy, Zeb Yorman, who was a songwriter for Kinky Friedman and the Texas Jew Boys, literally, and their bass player.
Right.
I'm not kidding. And they had all these guys that made, I'm 6'4", about 220. Okay, they made me look small. These guys were, well, Zeb was short but muscular. These guys were gigantic, and they came from all over the world. And to hear their war stories in their individual cities and the anti-Semitism they combated and the ruthless thugs that were beating up Jews for this, that, or the other reason.
Yeah, it's hard trying to get people interested in this. It's like, no, we don't want to be involved, you know. And it's like they're oblivious to the anti-Semitism that's going on, and both in the city and the suburbs, and they turn the other cheek. And you know, those of us who are involved with it, I mean, I'm not 6'4", 220, I'm far from it. But we need to use social media to get the message out. We need to have a presence the best we can. There's a group that's down at Water Tower every Sunday, I believe 11 to noon, because you have a group not in my name, and they sometimes when I have a chance I'll join them. We'll counter picket to let them know that that's not exactly what's going on.
By the way, one of the things you said that I really liked, one of my favorite phrases from Mayor Kahana was when it came to turning the other cheek. He told me it was the best way to get 2 black and blue cheeks.
That's right. You can't. You need to step up. It's not always popular, but yeah, we can't ignore what's going on, and kind of make things happen. And you know, we're out there at the Chicago Jewish Festival. A lot of people come to us. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are still around. Okay, would you like to help? Well, I'm too busy. You know. It's okay. We have a website and an email. Let us know if we can help. We give them information and kind of keep going. I mean, it's not like it was in the days of Nazi March in Skokie. So we could probably fill an hour talking about that. Is the whole attitude toward anti-Semitism by the Jewish communities.
If we want, we could. I mean, you know, Sonny is probably going to be grateful he gets off the hook for the second segment. Yeah. But so we'll do the whole show. You know, let's talk about anti-Semitism is really growing all over the place, but in different ways. For instance, with the original, there were actually about 3 different Jewish defense leagues during that Nazi March. There was what I like to call the McGovern liberal faction of the Jewish Defense League. Buzzy Elpert, he had his thing. Then there were people who were loyal to Mayor, and as a matter of fact, I still remember one of the groups. They actually. The McGovern Liberal Ring, as I like to call it, they actually helped reset up a cemetery in Morton Grove that almost got plowed under. Rich Samuels, as a matter of fact, was one of the reporters who covered that. I was part of that. I wasn't part of the Jewish Defense League thing. I was part of the press covering it. But there was literally a Jewish, you could be standing 2 feet from that cemetery and not know there was a cemetery. People who from the, you know, like the old names of the city, like Goldblatt and original Jewish German founders and all that, most of the stones had been bulldozed over. People were using them for target practice with apples and things like that, you know, from the local trees. And they were going to plow it under for a shopping center when, you know, the publicity got out and the thing got restored. I haven't been back there for a while, but it's still hard to find, but it is there. And some of the relatives who have people there are doing a little something. But in those days, it wasn't unusual for Jewish kids to get beaten up on a Saturday night at Demont, California, in this neighborhood. You know, there'd be people out, you know, looking for the Jews, you know, having pizza after the Sabbath. And while you don't see that kind of thing as flagrant as that, the kind of anti-Semitism you're seeing in not so much this country, although it's there to a certain extent beyond question and always will be, But in other countries, the outright hatred of Jewish people, even things like the boycott movement right now for the universities, there is really a resurgence of anti-Semitism and anti-Jewish feelings right now.
Yeah, of course, Toronto's had its fair share, and of course, France. There was a story that moved just today as we tape of a school that was trying to teach that the Holocaust didn't occur. And it was, I believe, out in California. And there was, fortunately, was enough parental uprising, which kind of made the school boards change their mind on this. So you get that kind of stuff. People say, oh, I would have had this, but they didn't hire me because I was Jewish. Or they didn't do this because I was Jewish. So what'd you do about it? Well, nothing, because I need the job. Well, you need to speak up.
Definitely need to speak up.
And there's organizations that, we can try and help, but we need to document it and make sure, we know what's going on. And if one of our flyers helps someone say, hey, I need to email these guys, it's great. Do that.
No, people definitely need to speak up, and it's not a little thing. I mean, my first gig in radio, I basically they liked my tape, but the condition was I don't let anybody know I'm Jewish. And they basically showed me what happened when minorities tried to move into the community, the burnt rubble. Mm-hmm. And lovely town that's not far, it's about an hour and a quarter from here, southwest. And I got to hear a real earful about Jews, and that place did have the three great Western religions though represented. I think it was Episcopalian, Methodist, and Lutheran. So very diverse crowd over there. So how many? So you're going to have a booth there with the Jewish Defense League. How many people are involved in it? Is there any central organization? Is there a national organization going now, or?
Like you said, there's, the Jewish Defense League's like a synagogue. If someone gets upset, they start their own. Shelley was running.
There is a lot of that. You're right.
Shelley was running the national operation until her son died suddenly about a year and a half ago. So I've been trying to work with her just to maintain the presence. We do have an amazingly strong Facebook presence. Locally, we've got an email list that we send out updates and information. We're trying to build that. And we're seeing a little bit more interest. People will donate to help defray the cost of coming out to the festival. Some people want to do some in-kind support. So it's every little bit helps. There's a young woman in South Cook County, has a South suburban Cook County chapter. So it's there, and she's real good about monitoring what's going on with some of the speakers and stuff. But you can monitor and you can post, but you've got to take the action, and that's the hardest part, and that's the part that needs the most. We're trying to educate Jews too that if you have issues with a neighbor or a synagogue, don't go. If you go public with them, it's Jew versus Jew, and that's just is basically unacceptable. We can disagree, but we need to work more.
You've got a controversy right now in your neck of the woods with the synagogue.
It's been resolved.
It is?
It's been resolved, and they'll be breaking ground on it in mid-May, and we're
looking
forward.
Who's the rabbi there?
We have a rabbi associate with us through the Northbrook Torah Learning Center, Rabbi Yeshua Karsh, and a core of just really, really dedicated and wonderful folks who have built a shul.
Yeah, you sent through Facebook. You were sending me, the stuff about what's going on there, and unfortunately, in so many instances, it is somebody Jewish trying to mess up. We can be our own worst enemies, but it's important to remember that it's not that. Even though people would like to think that the Holocaust isn't going to happen again, and the world's completely different, and it doesn't work that way.
No,
people are people. I mean, if people really think that the business with Donald Sterling is going to end racial this, that, or the other thing, it's not going to end anything.
He's just one person. He's very visible.
Yeah, very
that's
visible.
What makes
and
it
frankly, I don't want to defend the guy because I've always felt the guy was the worst owner in all of sports and a real jerk and just a complete exterior orifice, which is about the nicest thing I'll say about him. That girl, she basically just set him up and tried to, Well, look, I'm not going to try to cleanse them at all, but the fact is, you're not living in a post-racial society that's not happening. If people really think that all people are going to lose any feelings of prejudice they had ever, and that life progresses that way, they are fooling themselves. There is such a thing as human nature. People like their own better. Now, most people can deal with it in a decent, civilized way. You know, hooray for us, and you guys are okay too. And there's no question how much better things have gotten. Look, there was a time when wearing a yarmulke and having a name like Avi got me beaten up on a regular basis on the South. Well, you're from the South Shore area.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So yeah. I still remember all the lovely kids from Leo that, well, one in particular, I messed up his knee, but that got me a good reputation. You know what? I figured he was a starting tackle on the Leo football team. We were playing Jews against the Catholics. You know, we were playing alley ball. We got to shoot everything down the alley. Mm-hmm. I hit a homer in the bottom of the ninth to win the game, and he attacked me. And he came at me, and it was sort of like, I figured I was getting beaten up. And it was like a dream. He tried kicking me, and I caught his foot. And I just jerked it all the way up as high as I could. And I won the fight. And people left me
And you won the game, too, so, you know, it was a doubleheader sweep. You know.
That was really. Oh, by the way, that guy's a lawyer now.
There you go.
I did find out from somebody I met from the South Side. So it was kind of interesting. But you know what? These kind of feelings, it's, you know, these people's you take a look what happened in Europe and the fact that people were willing to stand idly by. And you look at how Jews are being attacked, where even the Jewish mayor of New York didn't like the way Jews are circumcised and try to throw in a law that would make it difficult for Jews to circumcise their own children. In other countries, they're trying to ban kosher slaughter, which arguably is as humane a method as there could possibly be. I mean, look, there's no nice way to kill somebody, to kill an animal. There is no, nice animal, disappear and die. No.
So if they ban kosher slaughtering, do they ban halal slaughtering as well?
Well, sometimes that's an outgrowth of it.
Oh.
It can happen, but it's not always directly connected. Sometimes it's just kosher. For instance, I forget which Scandinavian country, I don't know that the halal is illegal, but I know the kosher slaughtering is. So it's a good question, and that is a problem that contributes to it also, because so many of the Muslim customs copy us.
Yeah. Well, see, one of the things that I think we're a little bit more passionate about is because we're close to the same age, and we had parents and grandparents who really instilled it and passionate. We're not seeing that now. Religion as a whole is not important to a whole new generation. You can go to synagogues on Halloween and they'll cancel classes because what they say, trick-or-treating is more important than Hebrew school. Okay, well, that just starts a whole message. So there's not this passion, there's not this concern. It's like, oh yeah, I read about that. Look at the membership numbers in synagogues. Reform is doing well, conservative struggling, and the Orthodox continues to grow. So why is that? Reform, okay, it's an easy, well, with all due respect to reform, to many people, it's kind of a quote, an easier way out, and they're a little bit more accepting. Reform, if you go reform, you're in it for the long haul. I'm not reform, Orthodox. Yeah. You're passionate about it. And conservatives kind of struggling to gain its identity. And I talked to one executive director of a conservative show 2 years ago. I talked to her since, but 2 years ago, why they weren't at the Chicagoland Jewish Festival. We didn't know about it. I said, how could you not know about it? You're a large conservative synagogue. You need to know what's going on in the Chicago area. And how can I, who gets the email for the Jewish Defense League, know about it and be there? So you got to be on top of it because, every action is a reaction. If you take the lead, you're going to at least show your membership and potential membership that we're involved in the Jewish community. It's important to us. So we'll see if they're there this year.
Well, one thing, I hate to bring up the Sentinel at all, where I did work, and, I actually had a piece of the action for a short time. The fact is, neither paper, well, the Jewish Star at least likes Jews and tries to do good things for the community, and is pro-Israel. The Jewish News, which really the only reason to pick it up at the newsstand is to spare anybody from having to read it, there's no sense of community. They're not. The Jewish Star is involved with parts of the community, at least in certain areas. The Jewish News isn't involved with the community at all. And it used to be you could look at the Sentinel, and even though you could say a lot of bad things about the Sentinel, which is one of the reasons I left and started a different paper, because I obviously believed a lot of those things, they had just about everybody that had an event wanted to be in the Sentinel.
Yeah.
At least you'd find a listing there. Fishbein might rip you off for a couple of bucks to get your listing in there, but you got your listing in there. So whatever it was, but there is no sense of larger community. And you know what? One of the points, 4 years ago at the Jewish Fest, I will never forget seeing the JUF tent for green stuff and these kids with the green exhibits. And there are, speaking of religion, a lot of people have replaced the Jewish religion with the green religion. And it has actually become a religion to people. Their environmental stuff. You take a look at the Reconstruction congregation in Evanston. Those guys, not all those people, Reconstructionists by definition does not really believe in God, which is actually interesting. But they'll believe in doing right thing, wrong thing for the green, for the ecology. I mean, it's more serious, to use a plastic bag than, all sorts of other human endeavors. It's unbelievable. People in this country are forgetting what there's basic right and wrong. You don't steal from people. You're honest to people. You're nice to people. You try to be good to people. You try to help people. What kind of plastic bag you use just doesn't really do a lot for me along those lines.
Everyone has their own fights with the Jewish community. To a lot of people, it's not important until someone says something to their kid at school. Then, oh my God, it's a big issue to come to the school board. And my whole feeling is, this is it's not a buffet. You don't pick and choose when you want to, defend your Judaism.
No.
Yeah, it's 24/7.
I agree.
And you just need to hopefully pass it on to your kids in one way, shape, or form, and support the community. And again, as we talked about a little bit before, is if you've got an issue with a Jewish organization, try to work it out. Don't fight them publicly, because it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, people don't realize how bad you can look. I mean, I really can't tell the stories because of the reason you're talking about. There are times that I could have written art. I remember one time I had a rabbi so dead to rights, it wasn't even funny. And I went to my favorite rabbi at the time, which was Rabbi Soloveitchik, of blessed memory, and I presented the situation to him, and I wanted to know his opinion on the subject. He told me, he says, "You really shouldn't run it." I said, "Okay, why?" He says, "Because people aren't going to understand that this is just one bad rabbi. People are going to think that all Jews are like that. And you are going to give a bad impression of all Jews." People in public picked up Wally Phillips used to do the paper, talk about the paper. Steve Dow would. I had a lot of publicity in that paper, so a lot of people would get the impression that it would have been a bad reflection on Jews everywhere, and not just the one guy.
Now take that. Now this is before the days of the internet.
Yeah.
Take that now, and it's magnified, because people, if they didn't read it back then, they certainly don't read it now. And this is one thing we're seeing, is people just take things for granted. They don't look to see if information is verifiable, where it comes from, the independence, the bias, and who holds it accountable. So you run into situations like this, and this fuels. The anti-Semitism, or the hatred in general that's available, if you will, on the internet is just unconscionable.
It really is, and it's so much easier for people in that environment. At this point, our hands are really running out of time. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise.
And I want to thank Ahmed Khan very much for messing up and not showing up and giving Stan the extra time.
It works.
So thanks, Ahmed. And if people would like to contact you.
We'll be at Chicagoland Jewish Festival. We be in the Jewish Defense League, or you can email us at jdlmidwest@gmail.com. jdlmidwest@gmail.com.
Thank you very much, Stan Zoller. Thank you to Sonny Hirsch, my entire technical crew, and this day worked out better than I thought. Join us next week, everybody. Bye-bye.